Yo, 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 what's going on? This is the NRW Nerds Rule the World. It's your boy, Kuya P, aka Patrick Michael Strange, the Adobro, the Babinka boy, the leader of the Holla Holla homies in the center gang of the ShoPowSho, back in for another amazing episode. Today, again, unfortunately, Viva Valentina, Kataphorric couldn't be here. As you know, Kataphorric is killing it, educating the masses over in Japan. And my girl Viva Valentina, as of the day of this recording, is over at PAX East, having fun gaming. I wish I was over there too, having some fun gaming, but I couldn't pass up though an opportunity to talk to our special guest today. I've known about this character through many mutuals, heard of his talents, seen a little bit of his work. Again, he's running into the same circle as I, so I must be doing something right if I'm in these circles as well. So it's lovely from what I hear with what he's doing and speaking a little bit with him. He's got a lot of the same goals that I have. So you know what? As I say, a rising tide lifts all boats. We got to come together. We got to continue to build and help manifest these dreams so that way we can see that representation that we are dying for be there. So let me not wait any longer. Let me put him up here on the screen. Please welcome filmmaker, author, writer, amazing cat, Charles John Gray. Charles, you can unmute. I'm going to now shoot off some air horns. It's not going to deafen you because it's in post. I want you to be able to hear because you got to be able to create this work. So how are you today?
Ooh, man, those air horns were pretty loud, man.
Man, thank you for coming through, man. Again, we, as I said earlier, we have a lot of the same friends, and I've heard a lot about you and just the work you're trying to do and uplift and educate and entertain all at the same time, man. Those are my goals, and it's a shared bond we have, and it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Since we're not in person, we're still in a pandemic, but through this virtual means via Zoom. Thanks for coming through.
Oh man, thank you. That intro was amazing, man. I feel like we are in person. Like that energy is like coming through right now.
I got to show love, man. We got to celebrate each other. So, dude, I'm going to walk you through your life, man. We want to know all about you. For those that don't know about you, like I kind of half do through, again, like I said, mutuals, and heard nothing but good stuff. No bad stuff. Because, that's what you're like. What have you heard? What do you know? It's all been good. Let's go through it. So one of the big first questions we throw out the gate is kind of a play off of one of those stereotypical questions we get when we're meeting a lot of people when we're out, especially from white people, is where are you from? But really, where are you from? Your parents from? We've kind of flipped it into our own means. So tell me, where your family go? Let's get into that question when you're asked that question, and then throw it back a little bit more to your parents. And how, your ancestors bringing you here.
Right. Well, I'm currently a resident of Los Angeles, California. I'm kind of near the beach just for vicinity's sake. I'm here in the West LA. But yeah, I'm pretty much an LA kid. I grew up in LA, went to high school out in the suburbs out in West Covina, if anyone knows where that is. Fun fact, there was a show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend that filmed in West Covina that had Vincent Rodriguez III, Filipino actor. But yeah, so that's like the claim to fame for West Covina. So that's kind of where I went to high school, kind of grew up, LA kid. But taking it back, I was born in the Philippines, actually, in Quezon City. That's where my parents are from, both Filipino. Although my dad is half Maltese, which is the island off a boot of Italy. So that's why my last name is Gray. So it's my dad's dad who... so I have a little bit of that, but he grew up in the Philippines. So my culture is pretty much Filipino. I grew up in the Philippines, or, my Filipino parents raised us here in Los Angeles, and, pretty much like spoke Tagalog in the house, and, was raised on Filipino food and all that good stuff. So.
All right. Well, we're going to dig into that. I love that. And I love the Malta, that you're part Maltese. I've been to Malta. I have a lot of memories of Malta. I was in the military, for a period of time for like 4 years, and enjoyed Malta quite a bit.
Wow.
Malta is one of my favorite places when I was in the military. Had a lot of fun as a young single guy in Malta. I'll leave it at that.
That's so crazy because I've never been there. My dad's actually never even been there. And we always talk about going and
you should go. There's a lot of great historical sites to visit. I could go off on a tangent there. I'll just say, if you ever seen the movie Popeye with Robin Williams, do you recall that?
I remember it. I don't remember like what happens in the movie, but I remember seeing Robin Williams, and the girl from The Shining was Olive Oil, right?
Yeah. But I'm real quick. I'm going off on a tangent, but it's just a big memory. The set that that the Popeyes village is still there in Malta. It's now a tourist destination. They left it all there by the seaside. It's so beautiful. And actually, that would be a dope place. I don't know why they don't film there still, but it's now a tourist site. Google it, y'all. And Charles, you may want to check it out later. And then if you remember a film called The Beach or whatever, that I think that was with Brooke Shields. I might be wrong, but there's like a movie with Brooke Shields and a young man to get like stranded.
Oh, Blue Lagoon. Blue
Lagoon. Yes, the original Blue Lagoon is in Malta. And I went to both of those locations. It's so beautiful. But a lot of memories there. I'm off on a tangent. But I know you and I are film guys. And so like I love visiting sets and locations where some of our favorite films are at. And that's Malta's there, and it's beautiful, and there's a lot of stuff to see there. It's so beautiful. Anyway,
oh man.
So I would highly recommend, man, go with your family, check it out. It's beautiful. But let's give further love and light before we go on your journey and tell your story. I love to dig a little bit into the family, the ancestors, again, that came before, because to me, you know, we're the product of their sacrifice. So I love to get, you know, of everything, the struggle that they've done for us to be here and do what we do. And also, I think there's also interesting tidbits that a lot of what we are and who we are now, we've inherited from them in some fashions. So I'm curious, like, if some of them were filmmakers. And I was looking at your bio that you sent me. So I think there's a little bit of something that you're going to tell me in just a second, but I want you to tell your story and tell it to my audience. So if we could show some love and light to just family, ancestors that came before, and see if some of those nuggets of what you are is in the DNA that brought us the amazing Charles Gray.
Oh man, no, I appreciate that. No, yeah, totally. Yeah, my dad is a film director, and he was in the Philippines. And but the thing is, what's funny is I grew up here in the States, in LA. So I only just heard stories. I never even really knew that side of my dad. When my dad moved us all over here, you know, he didn't work in the film industry. I don't know if he had dreams to do that. Maybe I should ask him about that one of these days. But he just, you know, survived through odd jobs and stuff like that. But in the Philippines, he was directing films. And in his 20s is when we moved out over here to the States when I was a little kid. And his family is in the movie industry over there. They kind of have like a famous last name, the Quezons, which I don't know, like if anyone knows, but Dolphy Quezon would probably be the biggest name. I'm sure like all like your parents would know who like Dolphy is and stuff. I mean, even people still in like younger generations would know too. This is actually a poster of my dad's movie of Dolphy that he directed, and I put it up on my wall as just like a reminder to kind of keep the dream alive. And that's kind of that's been the inspiration for me doing it over here. I mean, but growing up, I never thought I was going to do this film thing, because all I heard were like these stories, you know. It's not until I actually visited my dad in the Philippines, watching him direct. This was like when I was in college. Like you know, after high school and all that stuff. When I saw him doing it in person, was really like like it was like the light bulb moment for me when I was like, oh my God, like my dad is a director. Like it's in our blood. Like, you know, just hearing all the stories, maybe this is something I got to do. And it's so funny. That was the one thing that inspired me to actually go to film school. And because before that, I was in a band. I was playing music, and but it was like one of those things where like I didn't know what I was doing playing in a band. I mean, I didn't know what the dream was. Like, were we going to be like? I mean, I don't know. Like one of my favorite bands was like U2, and I was thinking, okay, if U2 can be like old guys still doing it, like maybe there is a hope there. But I don't know. I was kind of like, I didn't really have direction. But seeing my dad do that, it really was like the moment when I was like, this is what I want to do. And I enrolled myself into film school. And was like, you know, I'm just going to try it out. I just want to see if I could hang with the other kids. I want to know who's out there. Maybe I'm like going to be going to school with all these other like Spielbergs and stuff. So I was like, maybe I'll drown and maybe I suck, but like, I got to just see it, you know? I pretty much just went in like full, like I was just like laser focused. Like like I'm just gonna I'm here to learn, here to soak it up. Like I didn't really go to a prestigious like film school. I went to the Art Institute of Orange County, which I've heard people say it's like the McDonald's of like art schools. Like it's not really like, you know, the names that you hear like USC or you know, stuff like that. But to me, I was like, I don't care. Like I'll go to I don't care. Like like I'm here to soak it all up. So I pretty much just like was, you know, every class, like freaking every time I had a project, my whole thing was like, if I'm gonna try to really do this, like, because I was noticing that everyone in film school was like casting their friends just to act, just to get by. It's like, you know, you watch the final product and it's like, you know, when you see like bad acting or just like acting that's not motivated by anything, you're just like seeing people say these words. It kind of just brings down the whole film. So I was like, all right, if I'm really gonna do this, I might as well try to go all out. So every project I had, I was like casting actors from LA. I was like just trying to I was pretending like I was already in like the film industry. So that was me like doing film school pretty much. And
I love it.
yeah,
I love it. Well, hold up before we go even further with that, because we advanced on your journey a little bit.
Oh.
I want to take it even back. No, I love it. I don't like stopping cats when they're in the spirit and sharing, man. And so I thank you for sharing, because again, this is what we're here for right now, to share these experiences and talk about it. So I love that love. So going back to the beginning with you know, you it's in the DNA. It came a little bit from your father. And so let's take it back to him taking you and the family over from the Philippines. So you were born in Quezon City, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
At what age did you move from Quezon City to America?
When I was 4. So
you're 4. So do you have memories as a youth in the Philippines?
You know, I don't. I've seen photos, but I'm like, I don't remember that.
So let's go from 4 to 10. Tell me about a young Charles Gray. What would your parents tell me about you? What were you into?
It's so funny you bring that up, because I was big on like GI Joes. I had
yes, I love
you too. Are you a GI?
That's bro. So what? Off on another tangent. If there was one property that I would want to translate to the screen, unfortunately, you know, they've already started doing it, but to me, they aren't G.I. Joe films. I'll say straight up. Rise of Cobra was a little bit close. Well, was Rise of Cobra the second one?
Yeah, I think there was only 2. There might have been 3, but yeah, there was 3. Joe, I think there was 3. I think
Rise of Cobra, that my man from Crazy Rich Asians did. He was on the part 2. Actually,
are you talking about Snake Eyes or?
No, Snake Eyes. I'm not even going to talk about Snake.
Oh, okay.
Man, they haven't. So I'll just say that they haven't done the G.I. Joe films right yet.
Right.
They've tried to update it to now. You got to take it back to the 70s, to Vietnam. To I'm a fan of the comic book. I'm a Larry Hama guy through and through. He's the god. Yeah. But anyway, that's the one property that if I could translate a property, it would be that. And Gem and the Holograms. I'm an 80s kid, so. And that wasn't that great of a film either. And my man, it's escaping me right now, but it's probably good I don't say his name, because he did do both G.I. Joe and Gem.
Oh, John M. Chu.
Yes, and I love John. I've worked with John on Step Up, and he's a good guy. But yeah. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I'm off on a tangent. But you're a G.I. Joe go-to, so I love that. So it's something you and I have even more of a connection to.
Oh,
we'll have to talk about that offline later.
Dude, I'm so down. No, believe me, I was like well, I didn't know the comic books, because when I was a kid, I was just buying the toys, watching the cartoons. But I love the cartoons. The cartoons was like and the toys, I loved how there was like all these characters. I would buy like one. I would go to Toys R Us, Walgreens, wherever they would have it. I would try to collect them all, because on the back they would show you like the whole cast of like.
It was the best. It was the
best.
Yeah.
And just the names were so cool, like Tunnel Rat, Snake Eyes, like Storm Shadow. Like they just had like the coolest names, the coolest like weapons, and I loved the mobility of the toys. I was like back then, that to me was like a big deal, because like I remember buying like WrestleMania toys, and I was like. It's just their arms go like this, but like G.I. Joe's had like the elbows moving, and I was like
articulation. Yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah. So that just like was like my whole childhood, and I used to have the living room like with like GI Joe. I would be playing out movies, I think, like, and my parents, I remember they used to come home from work and like GI Joe's everywhere, and it's like, oh my god, like what's all this? I honestly think that's where a lot of my like storytelling or just like action stuff in my head, the creativity, where that started. GI Joes, man.
Same, completely, dude. I love it. I love that so much. That's like my heart, man. And yeah, and you had the little file cards on the back, so you get inspired by seeing all these various characters that would inhabit this universe. But then you'd get like the story about them that really puts you into that creative vibe. And then and then you'd watch the cartoon. And then I would steal. I don't know. My early filmmaking, dude, was taking my parents' video camera, and I'd set up my Joes and my play sets, and I'd like, do like some straight up Scorsese stuff with taking the camera across with my figures. It was crazy. I love it. So they would catch you playing. And were there anything else? Like, were you into sports or just, just in general? What else would they tell me about a young Charles between 4 and 10?
Honestly, I don't even, no, not even sports. Like my brothers got more into sports. I think I was just glued to the TV, cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons. I don't know, coloring books. I don't know. I mean, after G.I. Joe's, it was like Ninja Turtles, but like, and then Power Rangers and all that. But like, yeah, I don't know. 4 to 10, I think it was just like pretty much cartoons and stuff like that. That I was stuck in.
I love it. All right, so I'm gonna stay around that arena of time. Growing up in America, so obviously the family is transitioning to being American citizens and quote unquote, we as a people assimilating to American culture. At this time in your life, for a lot of us, we're now, because of the world, you live in for me, I'm a mixed kid. My mom's Filipina from Cavite, and my dad's a white American, English guy. You find out that you're different. Can you tell me what that was like for you and growing up in your particular area? A lot of the West Coast Filipinos I've had on the show were in, actually what's wild when I ask this question is, even though we were in the States, you were in a very Filipino dominated area. And so it really wasn't that kind of an awakening. So I'm curious if it was similar for you or just going into that part of life and growing up, man. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, actually, kind of similar. I mean, actually, when we moved from the Philippines, we had relatives in San Francisco. So I kind of toggled between San Francisco and LA. But eventually, like, I stayed in LA, went to high school in LA. But in the first couple years of like kindergarten to like third grade, it was San Francisco. But even then, where I was in like the Mission District, it was like there was like kind of everyone. It was like, blacks, Filipinos, Asians, white. Not until LA was it more like Latino. But even then, when I went to LA, it was just like more adding more Latinos into the mix. But it was still like Asians, blacks, white. So I grew up kind of in that whole, always kind of just being in the mix of other types of students. So it's so funny because like the whole like idea of like being like the only Asian in school, because I heard the story a lot too, because there's a lot of people who come to LA from like the Midwest and all that, even like celebrities. And when we hear these stories, I've never had that experience. So if anything, I never really felt like that whole like tension of like, oh, you're this, so we're gonna treat you this a certain way. To me, it kind of always was, as it is kind of now, like kind of just about your character. And that was kind of the thing that like, that's what separated you from other people. Like, oh, because I was kind of a quiet kid. So maybe I was more just like regarded as a shy kid more than like, oh, it's the Filipino kid or something like that. So my experience kind of growing up was like, I was already open to like other cultures, like, going over friends' house who were like Chinese and stuff like that. So seeing other cultures, even just at an early age. So I feel like I was kind of already integrated with that whole type of mentality of like being open to everyone who's different around you.
Wonderful. So that's awesome. I wish that was the way for a lot of people, but as we know, with differences though, and as you grow older, they become labels, and then you get defined by labels, and racism happens, and classism happens, and rich, poor, all of that, which then helps drive you, at least in certain aspects, towards that representation and wanting to show that there's more than that, or we're more than those labels. So that's also the why in that question in why I asked that question. So we'll learn how some of that filters even more through your work, I'm sure. And as we get older, so we're coming out of 10. Let's get into school years. What was filmmaking always something you wanted to do? Let's get into your formative years of schooling. What did you get into when you're in school? Did you come out of your shell a little bit? What are some of the early things that a young Charles Gray was into as you were getting into school?
Man, 10 to 20, I pretty much faced all the awkwardness of those years. I was really quiet and introverted. I mean, I'm still pretty quiet now. I'm not the life of the party. I hate to break it to you, but like, yeah. So, but for me, no, filmmaking was never even a thing I thought of as I used to think, not even till that much until like, man, this is embarrassing, but up to like, I don't even know when, but for the longest time, I used to think like, I didn't know what a cinematographer was. I thought the director held the camera and was like really doing everything in the movie. Like when I saw, I guess I knew who like Steven Spielberg was. I thought he was like holding the camera, you know what I mean? And all that stuff. So to me, I loved movies. It was like watching movies, watching TV shows, but I never thought that was something I could do. I never even knew what it was to make it. They never showed like documentaries or behind the scenes stuff. So it was all about just what I was presented, these worlds and stuff. So it was more just like escaping into these things. So I think if anyone were to say anything about me, it'd be like, Charles is like in his own world, like watching these things. And I think that's where I got a lot of but as far as like, what I was into, I think besides watching that, I think it was just trying to survive as a kid, playing outside, making friends and having crushes on girls at school, like all those kind of normal things. But maybe from like the more introvert perspective, because it was like, I was never in sports or anything. So it was always kind of like seeing people do all that while I was kind of like to myself.
I got you. I feel that. What do you think was some of the biggest life lessons you learned in school?
Like
just in general, like about life and everything. I'm throwing at you some new questions that I'm starting to think, which would be kind of give more insight into character for people.
Honestly, if there was one thing that I knew about myself even early on was that like I was creative, whether it was like we have to do an art project or something. I remember always just like getting so into it. Like whether it was like watercolors for a dinosaur or something, I was like always so into it. And then, if anything, I knew back then as a kid that yes, I was kind of quiet and shy, but when it came to like creative stuff, that was always where I was like really focused on. And I'd always tune out when it was like, math and science and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think if anything, the thing that I learned was that I had something I had a creative spark for something. I didn't know it was going to lead me to film, but I knew it was there for something.
I love that. I feel that. And for those watching this too, as well, we always kind of get typecast. Oh, Asians know all about math and science. Not all of us are into that. We're not all into that stuff. You know how we get that stuff, Charles? I don't exactly love math either, bro, or science. So anyway, just had to point that out. We're not a monolith, y'all. So as you said earlier, you found out that your dad was, had this film background. Tell me when you came into that realization. Was that, now in these formative years in school, then where that became like in you, and then you're, like you just said, you found yourself really into the creative stuff. I'm curious how that then came into being to then, as we kind of started off a little bit earlier, then you went to Art Institute to now, because we're getting out of the high school years, how now this love to now want to get into film.
Yeah.
If that was even your first thing you knew you wanted to do, coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. And also, I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you at the moment, because one of the things we talk about a lot on the show is, while we may, as young Filipinos in high school, want to get into the arts, it's okay as a hobby, but it's not what they want us to do for the rest of our life. They'd rather us become engineers or doctors, lawyers. We get kind of pushed in that route. What was that like for you? Were you did you want to go one path, but your parents want you to go on another? If we can just kind of intermingle all that into, where you want to go as you leave out of high school and you go to college and so on and so forth?
Yeah, and this is another thing which I hear this a lot too, is like the parents who wanted you to be engineers or lawyers. I'll be honest, man. Like my parents, I think they were kind of a different kind of crowd in the Philippines, because my dad, coming from that film industry lifestyle in his 20s, he won like the Oscar version of an Oscar in the Philippines for like best young director. And even in that, like his whole family was in that, and his friends and stuff. I think he was kind of, I mean, I don't want to rat out my dad, but I know he was like, he used to party and he used to like, get down and stuff, and and with my mom and stuff. So honestly, to be honest with you, they used to tell me stories that their parents or like my mom's mom and dad used to be really strict. So I think in them, they kind of like made it a point to not be strict with us. And I think I got lucky because my parents were never really like that. Like, oh, you got to do this. They were always just like, I think kind of waiting to see what we wanted to do. I think it was more like that. Like, I think they kind of let us find it on our own, which I really appreciate and love them for that. Because I think if I was like, I don't know what would have happened if it was more of a strict household. But I think because they were so chill and relaxed with like how we kind of went about our stuff and making us find our own path. I think I'm just grateful that that's how I came into finding the film world. But I think to kind of go back to your earlier question, how I kind of got to that path, honestly, when we're in school, we're learning about science, math, English, all that stuff. I will say English was my favorite subject because we didn't have art, was never like a subject. That was always just like extracurricular. But if anything, English was like my pathway in, because I also write. And because I used to love English class, reading and writing, that led me to, honestly, it led me to the music world. Because then like, that's my friends in high school were in music. And so when we formed a band, I was like the guy writing the songs. But I think that like songwriting and that structure of writing songs led me to the structure of writing scripts. So in a weird way, that kind of path plus like getting more involved with knowing my dad's side of the story, I think kind of it met at film. So
that's awesome. I love that. I'm a young music cat too. I was in choir and used to have like a little Boys to Men, Shy Silk, Jodeci, little R&B squad back in the day. So I know all about that, and kind of intermingling the two with poetry and spoken word. Like that became a heavy thing for me as well. That then carried on through scripts, brother. So,
what were you guys called? What was the name?
I don't know if we really had a name. We probably did, and I've kind of locked it away because it was so embarrassing that I'll leave it at that. This is back in 1995, 1996, because I graduated high school in 96. I'm an old head, brother. That I'm trying to remember right now, but I can't remember. We just we were just heavy into R&B and just trying to romance the ladies with our music. I'll leave it like that. It was a lot of fun. So music and then into script writing. So we kind of already started this story earlier on in the conversation. So we're graduating high school, and props to the parents for being, like you said, so flexible in allowing you to find your own way and your own path. Because what if you go back to all these previous episodes of ShoPowSho, that hasn't always been the case for a lot of us. And so when you can find that, that's amazing. And I'm hoping I do that with my child. I think I've been very flexible with allowing her to just do her journey, because it's so important. So you decide to go to Art Institute. That you said, and as I was kind of telling you earlier, as you were talking about Art Institute, I've had a lot of friends that went into that, and other people are going to talk about it, but I think as generations get older, whatever you choose, just do it. Let's stop throwing shade on how we get there. It's all about the journey, and there's certain lessons that you can learn from every area. So, those cats that were knocking you for going to that, Charles, F them. I'm sorry, but I'm not cool with cats that kind of get on other people with how people do their journey, as long as you're on the journey. So let's go back to you and doing the Art Institute thing and intermingling the music into filmmaking. And I'm curious what kind of a voice you are, how you came into your voice and what you want to do with filmmaking.
Yeah, right. So interesting. So it kind of came from me being in a band. So in my like late 20s, I was in this band with my friends. This is after high school. This is like in LA now. We were playing shows. Like I think like one of the biggest shows we played was like at the Roxy, and or we opened up for this band called Hello Goodbye, which was like a big deal at the time. And um, so I was like, okay, I'm in this band thing. I used to write songs with the lead singer because his whole thing was like he could make really good melodies. He can play anything on his guitar that he hears on the radio, but he like, I guess he kind of lacked the songwriter, although I thought he was a good songwriter. But he would always ask me because I used to write a lot of poetry, similar to you. Like my notebooks used to be filled with just like lyrics. Like I'm a fan of like rap as well, and like Eminem and all that kind of like, oh my god, 4-syllable rhyming stuff. And just like anyway, like so I used to write a lot of poetry. And so in the songwriting, we were in a band, and then we kind of got to this place where we made our first album, and it was like time to make a music video. And then we hired our friend who I saw. He's a Filipino guy who he made like a little video with him and his girlfriend. And I was like, let's make our music video. And as I was watching, as we were filming it, I was like kind of just like fascinated watching him, shoot on his camera. And then when it came down to like, we were at a cafe and he was showing us the edit. In my head, I never edited before, but like in my head, I was like, oh, what if you put that scene here? But I didn't want to step on his toes. But in my head, I was like, oh, but I guess I felt okay doing it because it was like I'm in the band, so it's like I have a say. But I just got enthralled with like putting that together. And then in my head, I was like, man, I want to make a music video for us. So I went like, this is like before I took that trip to the Philippines, and it all came together. When I came back from the Philippines, seeing my dad direct, I was like, okay, I'm going to go to film school. But my whole point of going to film school was like, so I can make music videos for the band, so I can direct them. Because I saw that like, what was it like? I don't know, like Fall Out Boy or some band had like one of the members directed the video or something, and I was like, dude, that's cool. Like so maybe that's what I was gonna do. So that's kind of how it all kind of led to like me finally going to film school and the Art Institute, which was just like something like it was like something I could. It was around, and it wasn't one of these things where I had to like have this like thesis to get in. It was kind of easy to get in. So I think it was one of those things where like, I'm just going to do it, soak it all in. And that's pretty much kind of which led me to the Art Institute.
I feel it. So, man, it's wild as we go on this journey and we reflect on that journey. Right. Tell me about, you got inspired, you found, this is what I want to do. What can you pinpoint like that moment or just really what you want to say with this work? Because I think we all, we have that voice that is screaming inside. For me, a lot of it right now for me is representation and Filipinx representation, telling those stories. Like I want to tell the story of Lapu Lapu. Like to me, that's our Black Panther, if you will, for Filipinos. And I don't think completely told in such a epic fashion yet, especially here in the States, that I think would just destroy if done right. Tell me about, the inner voice in Charles and that led to some of your early short films that I've had, the pleasure of checking out a little bit of them as well. Talk to me, Charles.
Yeah. So, in film school now it's like, okay, I feel like I could hang with these film school kids. I can make a film. I remember having that moment where I exported my first short film. And I remember just that feeling of, oh my God, this is what I wanted. This is it. Like, but I think that moment is not enough either, because like, yes, this is what I want to do, but I also didn't know what I wanted to say yet. So, I remember even just my first early short films, I wasn't thinking about casting or telling my story. That wasn't even, it was just to hang and just see if I can do this, see if I can put my either corny jokes together and make people laugh in the audience. Okay. And then I had this Filipino teacher in film school who actually brought it up to me. It was like, hey, you're Filipino, but like your cast is like, white and Black. What about you? Like, why don't we hear about Charles Gray? And that kind of got me thinking, like, wow, I didn't even think about like that it matters what the stories that I'm telling mean. So that opened me up, and it's like, for me, it kind of came late, because I think it's because like I grew up in LA, and like the high school I went to was like mixed race. I never thought like, I don't know, I guess it was all like good to me. And so, but, starting to kind of see how this actually does matter, how representation does matter, like the whole idea that like from like the Joy Luck Club to Crazy Rich Asians, how there's been this big gap, and like Asian representation was a big thing. I was like, maybe I can really use this platform or this like talent or this skill or this drive that I have for good, for something that can mean something to other people. So in film school is actually when I started to grow further with like why I'm here, why am I even doing this, and then I made this short film called What's Your Number. I don't know if I sent it to you, but it was like this, like one of these like rom-com funny things. And I was like, I'm going to cast a Filipino lead. And then I had like a white girl love interest, because I was like, I got to start using Filipino actors too, because but the funny thing was when you put out an ad in LA Casting, back then, there was not a lot of Filipino actors, but in the small pool that I found, I was like, well, maybe this is like a place where I can start. Like, who else is hiring them? I don't know. So, but when I started to feel like it really mattered was when I showed that film to like, so it was my junior thesis film at the Art Institute. And when you have your junior thesis, you show it in front of a panel of 3 teachers, or this one was like 2 teachers and a counselor. And then like with all your, the other film students are around too. I remember showing this film, What's Your Number? And it was a Filipino lead guy and a white girl. She was like from Germany, as a love interest. And it was a rom-com, but my story had nothing to do with them being like different nationalities. It was just a funny story about what's your number, the whole play on like, oh, how many people have you been with? When you're dating someone, that question always comes up. But I did it like in a funny way. And the comment that the counselor made, he was like, oh, I like your film, but I think you should have changed your lead actor to someone like, I won't name his name, but he pointed to someone in one of my classmates, and he was a white guy. And I remember looking at him like, he was like, what? Why are you pointing at me? But like, I remember feeling like, dude, what just happened right now? Like, was this like, this is like him saying that it would have been better if like I casted a white guy or something. And I remember like feeling kind of bothered by that afterwards, because like I was like really proud of the film, and my friends were saying like, oh, your film was so funny or whatever. But like that kind of stuck with me. And in my head, I was like, you know what? This is the right path to go, to like really tell your stories and go further with it. I mean, that wasn't about being Filipino, that movie, but like the fact that like I made a casting choice based off who I am. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should go further and really start to tell my stories. And that really has led me to like films like Following Jamie with Caitlin and Jennifer that and Velvet Sky, which is a Filipino story through and through. And so I just feel like, yeah, if I'm going to be doing this, I really do want to like, lean on who I am. And because I feel like on top of representation, yeah, I think being authentic to who you are as a creative is super important as well in this kind of landscape that we're in now. Because it just feels also more therapeutic and better when you put something out there that you really feel like I really put my truth out there. And I think that's more important than just like what I used to do in film school, which is like, I thought of a funny, clever idea. Let me make some people laugh with it, so.
I love that. Well said, man. But as you were talking to, and it got me thinking, because I'm with you wholeheartedly. That's exactly how I feel. But then also, I'm curious if this is the same struggle for you as well. That because of that, it feels like it could also be a vice on us as creators as well. As much as we want to do that, and the need is so much there that if we don't do that, if we go, even if we try to stray a little bit, that the that we feel like we're going to let down our community as a whole, right? And and that's bothersome too. We shouldn't be made to feel that we just have to do that. And I just want to emphasize that, because sometimes I feel that, as a creative, it is my end goal, and that's what I want to do with our work. And it's so important to me, especially because I'm a father and I have a mixed child who's half Black, half Filipino. I'm a mixed kid myself. So there's like mixed representation that I also want to portray and build up. But then there's a need I have for Filipinx representation. And then there's LGBTQIA representation, because I have a lot of friends that are of that. It's just, there's just that push and pull when you're trying to do, but you can only do so much. Do you ever feel that way as a creative, Charles?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, and it's funny you're talking about that, because like it's always on my mind, this thing that we're all trying to do as creatives, and being like whether it be Asian or people of color, I think honestly, because if I'm really breaking it down, I think it's important to tell our stories and be authentic, because we're not trying to like, we're kind of just trying to show people that this is our culture and we're kind of similar to you guys. And we can all kind of, be at the table and share our stories with each other. And I think that's the kind of the beauty of sharing our stories. And that should be kind of it. I don't think we have like some secret agenda to like take over the world or anything. We all just kind of want to just, be able to like see each other, for who we are. And I think that is the beauty of this whole, this choice that we're making to, as creatives, tell stories, make films, act and all that, right? Direct. But honestly, I think if we're just talking about like Filipinx creatives, I think we're at this place, which I honestly kind of feel like we're in this really amazing transitional phase right now, or like we're about to break through, whatever that means for you. Because I've heard like amazing, I remember this one quote, this kind of off tangent, but I remember Constance Wu saying, why do we need to break through? Why can't we just be here and be like, celebrate here? And why do we have to go? Like, what is this other side that is like this? So like, I was like, yo, that's a huge, awesome statement. Cause like, yeah, why are we like, who are we trying to, what kind of goalposts are we trying to get at? And I think if we just realize that we're all just trying to share and be kind of equals on both sides, that there's nothing that we need to break through. As long as if that's the goal, I'm totally cool with like everything that we're doing. But to kind of go back, us being in this transitional phase, I think right now it's maybe important, or it's great that we are kind of showing our culture in our stories. But I think the end goal would be to get to a place where we don't really have to always be trying to teach everyone what our culture is. We can just do some crazy shit. What if we want to just do some Breaking Bad shit, or we just want to do some superhero shit? Like we don't like it doesn't necessarily have to be about we don't have to be eating adobo saving the world, but we could just be those things. And I think if I feel like maybe we're right now, it's okay to like, our stories are about our culture, but I think what we want to get to is this place where we're just kind of all sharing and all kind of equal, seeing each other like, oh, that's what you do. Oh, that's what I do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. So. We just want to exist.
Yeah.
I want to fail. You know what I'm saying? As Asians, we're always doctors. You know what I'm saying? Even that stuff that's put onto us is just beings, right? As we get older, and then it's put there on the big screen. When you see an Asian, not a lot of times it's us as Filipinos, which is also sad, especially on doctor shows, because a lot of us are in nursing and all of that. But like, we're the nerdy kid, or we can't just be the bummy kid or whatever, or fall in love, be the love interest and have a love celebration going on, so it's that I just want. I want to be able to show all facets, as a creative in filmmaking and, behind the screen, all of that is important, I think, for us as creatives and storytellers, and having that happen. I think this will be the first time I admit this on ShoPowSho. I'm a huge fan of Joe Coy. I love his comedy. But then, there is parts of our community that thinks he's making fun of our community. Well, it is. He's making, but that's what he's making fun of what he grew up on. And one of my fears personally as well is I'm excited for Easter Sunday, his next big project that's going to come out this year. But then he also has, and I'm excited for this. Like, again, we were talking about like, feel there's something cool going on with our community and we're starting to be seen more. So we're going to have Easter Sunday. We're going to have Joseph I think I'm going to feel some kind of way when a white person puts on a Philippine accent around me or makes some kind of joke that they saw on that show. I think I'm going to feel some kind of way. And I think there's going to be others like myself in our community that are going to feel some kind of way. I don't think I'm going to be alone. But I'm going to be excited for that representation, but I'm also in fear of what that representation is going to bring out of other people that are closed-minded, I don't know if I'm going to laugh the same way. And yeah.
Right. I guess, time will tell to see how, I'm also excited for those two projects, hearing all my friends saying like, oh, I'm auditioning for this and all, seeing all that. And so I know it's like a big deal and we're all kind of rooting for him. And, and that's the thing. I think that fear is totally valid because it's the same thing I think that happened when like Crazy Rich Asians came out. There was like a bit of like that feeling of like, we're not all age or we're not all rich, or I hope we're not all thought of as like these rich snobby Asians. But if you really, and yet I don't know if that came with any backlash afterwards, but I will say, to me, if I'm looking at it from just like far away, Crazy Rich Asians to me was like the Trojan horse project that after it broke through the mainstream or it let in all these other things. Now we got The Farewell. Now we got everything everywhere all at once. All these like amazing other things that we can talk about. And to me, even if Easter Sunday maybe isn't the best representation of Filipinos, maybe it's just the Trojan horse, and we just like whatever happens with that. We celebrate it, but we say, well, we're not all like Joe Coy. Maybe we're serious here too, or so. I don't know. I guess we gotta just take it as that, or like, see it for the positives it can bring. So.
Oh yeah, I'm all excited for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm ready for these wins. We deserve these wins. We deserve that representation. And like you, we have many mutuals that I know are going to be involved with Joseph. And I know I'm going to want to punch somebody in the face if they start mocking us as a people and a culture. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a joke to you. You know what I'm saying? Don't joke at me, yeah. But anyway, so let's get back onto my man, Charles Gray, brother, who is amazing. So we were in film school, but now, you're out. I want to go now out of film school, leading to Velvet Sky, which is a short film currently, but you plan to make it into a full feature. I want to know this journey now after film school and creating this work that you are working now, and why the biggest lessons you've learned about film you learned after film school, if you get my drift.
Yeah, no, totally, man. So in film school, my whole thing was kind of like, I just want to make my classmates laugh. I want to put together these films and work with actors. So it was like training ground. But then as I started to get out of film school, it was like, now what do I really want to say? Because I felt like I proved myself. I can put together a project. I can produce something. I can direct it. I can write it, edit it, all that stuff. So now it's like, what do I really want to say? So the things that I've only made 3 films after film school that I feel like are all very personal to me. One was called The Ones That Get Away, which led me to meeting Caitlin, to making Following Jamie. And now after Following Jamie, actually, it's so funny, in making that film is when I met this mentor guy who was in the industry, and he was a Filipino guy. Not going to name names, but that actually inspired the story of Velvet Sky, which is about a young Filipino filmmaker who meets a mentor, asks him, or they get into a mentorship, and it becomes toxic. And, so I'm shedding light on this idea of crab mentality, which is it's not the nicest subject to tackle, because because it is something that is in our Filipino community. And
Very
my whole
much
thing,
so.
Yeah,
Very, very much so.
yeah, and my whole thing is, at this point, if we're talking about Asian movies, and if we're talking about like white movies or American movies, they're already at a place where they're making stuff that's just like a crazy idea, whether it's like The Dropout talking about or like The Social Network talking about Facebook, or Breaking Bad talking about the crystal meth industry and all this. They're already at a place where now it's just about the story. Now it's just about like, so but to get to that place, I feel like if we're gonna show our culture to the world, we can't hide it. We can't say, oh, we're all just happy people who have big parties and we're all cool and stuff. We have a dark side, like everyone has a dark side, and there are some dark things about our culture that are not everyone wants to bring out into the light. And so my film does tackle that thing, which is the crab mentality thing, but and that is what the film is about. But I think for me, I think it's important to also talk about the stuff that makes us who we are. Not to call us out, but it's the goal for me is to talk about it, have conversations about it. Maybe someone out there in the audience can see it and be like, oh my God, I've been doing that. This whole idea, if anyone doesn't know what crab mentality is, it's like, you're at a certain level in your career or whatever, and you see someone just like you rising up or maybe even going above you. And it's like, oh, let me talk crap about them because I don't want to see them rise because I'm up here. They can't be up here too, or they can't go higher than me. Like, God forbid. Right. So, what your whole mission statement, what you said in the beginning of this, I love, because I feel like it's the same thing. I want us to all lift each other up. And, there is that thing of crab mentality where there are people who don't want to see you rise, and people who are like our own people. And that's like, it sucks because, we should, if we could only just like help each other up, I feel like we could get so far. And I feel like people like you are doing it. I aspire to do the same thing. And so I really am talking about a dark subject in my film, but my goal is to really have this conversation so that we can really change that and be better to each other. Because I think in the goal of being accepted and being at the table with everyone else, we also gotta, do it together as a people. We can't be tearing each other down. So
hell yeah, dude, I absolutely love that. I'm not just saying that. I absolutely, that's why we do what we do, is to entertain, but also educate and confront those demons. Because if you don't confront those demons, if you don't face those obstacles, you're never going to get past that obstacle. And you'll still continue to it'll be an ongoing struggle. So bro, props to you, Kuya. I love that. Kill it, brother. Now I got to really finish up Velvet Sky, the short version, and really give you all the props. And then as you escalate, so tell me, actually, speaking of that, so you have this current short film version of Velvet Sky, but you are wanting to do a feature length. Can you tell me the differences and how that's going to adapt?
Yeah, so this is just a scene from the movie. So
Okay.
I picked this scene because I felt like at least this could kind of maybe stand alone as a short, because most scenes in movies are just like little short films. And but the whole point of this is to kind of help pitch this, to have the feature film script that I'm working on currently. I have the pitch deck, and then now I have this spec short. So hopefully, like, this is like my 1, 2, 3 punch when I'm in meetings.
Yes, I love that, dude. You already put in the work, like so that they can already kind of see, bro. That's what I'm talking about. I love it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan. I've seen other people do the same thing. Like, I remember, I'm a fan of like Damien Chazelle, who did Whiplash, and Whiplash is an influence on this film. Whiplash was a short film, and then he brought that. I think that went at a film festival, and then that got him the funds or to make Whiplash the feature film. So that's kind of the goal here. And I feel like, just talking to friends out here in LA and stuff, I feel like a lot of people are doing that, where it's like a spec short as well as like the spec script. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to go down that route. So I will be turning it into festivals, hopefully by the end of the year. as it's kind of being finished up in post production. Hopefully by the end of the year, you'll start to see it in like festivals.
Yes, I love it, dude. They even do it. Yo, shout out to you. I have a friend that's on CW. There's a show on CW called All American, and during like season 2 or season 3, the friend of mine did a backdoor pilot within one of the particular episodes of the season for All American Homecoming. Did that backdoor pilot. They loved All American, that particular episode in All American, that they then branched off into a new series called All American Homecoming, and that's doing numbers, and it's beautiful, and it's such a great show. Shout out to my friends over on All American and All American Homecoming on CW. Plug. They didn't pay me, but that's how we as filmmakers, especially as POCs, because it's an all POC, African American on All American Homecoming. But when they don't see the vision, because I'll say it, we have white dominated Hollywood, and when they don't see what we as POCs want to tell our stories, you have to kind of finagle your way in different ways, backdoor scripts, backdoor pilots, short films, in order for them to see the vision. Because sometimes it's also, they're only going to approve that they want to, quote unquote, we want this one Black film, or this will be our one Asian film or Latino film that we do, until we really, I'll just put it bluntly, we as POCs are making the decisions as producers and actually the one holding the money bags. That's when we're going to really have change. We can talk all we want about, the films we want, but unless we're making the decisions and controlling the money to do it, it's going to be a long path to make it happen. There's a path, but it's going to be a long path to make it happen. So sorry to get on my soapbox, Charles, but I'm so passionate about us as filmmakers and artists telling our stories, that, and when people ask all the time, how do we do it? This is how we do it. We got to support cats like you, Charles. When you get on this funding campaign and you shop your film and put it on the festival circuit to get it into a full feature, which I would love to see. Again, I think this is beautiful. I think it's a dope idea. So go support Charles. When that Kickstarter campaign, go support that brother, make that happen. And that's how we build. So I can't wait to see more with that. Charles, as we get closer to closing out, because I don't want to take up too much more of your time. And again, you're welcome to the ShoPowSho family. As that comes along and as other projects come along, I want to have you back to talk on it and give love and light to your cast and your crew and the spirit of the story. What are just some other aspirations? I know obviously Velvet Gray full-length feature. What are some other projects you have or just things you want to do? I think I'll be calling you if I get the rights to do G.I. Joe like I want to do. Again, to me, they didn't do it right. And with Snake Eyes, because, they redid it again with that, and that didn't do so well. So maybe let that property lay dormant for a little bit, and then me and Charles can jump on it and do it how it should be done. Because I'm just saying that's the one property I really want to rock and roll with. But
oh my gosh,
tell me about you and just other aspirations you want to do with your filmmaking.
Yeah, sorry. Before I answer that, I will say, man, I was so disappointed with the G.I. Joe live action movies, all three of them, even Snake Eyes. I will say the one thing that G.I. Joe did amazing that I still love is the G.I. Joe cartoon movie. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Oh my God, like Globulus, Nemesis Enforcer, like that
classic.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
Fergus Meredith, I think, was Globulus, right?
Ooh, yeah, I think so, dude.
Who was the boxer on Rocky, the coach on Rocky.
Dude, oh my gosh. That's crazy.
I'm an old head, bro. I remember certain. I love it.
Dude, amazing. Yeah, but as far as like other aspirations, honestly, with this film, for me, it's like, it's great that we're all kind of doing these projects on our own. But I feel like, honestly, the aspirations is similar to what you are doing. It's like, I want to see us really help each other, lift each other up, exactly what you're doing, because that's the only way we're going to make it. And I think it's more of like it's not a physical thing that I'm aspiring to do, but I think just like collectively as a conscious Filipino community, I think it's that thing of like, when the movies come out, we got to go out there and buy tickets and support each other. Like like Fabulous Filipino Brothers just came out. I don't know how well it did, or as far as like what they want to do, but I feel like we gotta do this if we really want it to happen and help each other. And I think the aspiration is just that is to, these other inspire other young filmmakers to come out and do it and tell their story, because like you said, everyone's got a story, and and it's no competition on whose story is better. It's just about giving each other the space and the opportunities, or to tell the stories, because that matters. Man, sharing of stories is so important. It's crazy. You might not think of it if you're like in a different field, but man, when you see someone else's story, I remember like I just watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, and the movie made me cry.
Mind blowing.
I'm not even like, I'm not a Chinese American woman in her 50s, but dude, but I felt it so much, and I think that's really where I just want to be part of that whole like collective feeling of like, man, I feel your story, even though I don't know who you are, but now I feel like I know who you are more because of the story, because we can't always go to meet each other in other states and have conversations, but we can make a movie and make you feel closer to each other. So I think that's the aspiration, really.
I love it. We want to connect with the art, and inspire and entertain with the art. It's so, man, yeah, that's the whole mission, brother. I love it. Yes. So as we close it out, man, I like to do a nerd check. And dude, I can't wait to have you back, because I think there's a lot we could talk about. I think you and I are cut from the same cloth. So definitely would love to have and chat with you again. We do a nerd check at the very end. If you were to give a TED talk on a particular subject, you can't obviously use film, because we know that you're a filmmaker, and what would be a nerdy subject that you could give a TED talk on, if you were to do a TED talk on something, and also something maybe not everybody knows about you. So people that are going to check this out right now, that think they know Charles, but no, you don't really know me all that well. I really know a lot about this, and you never really knew that, dude, did you?
Oh man, that's a great question, man. So it can be G.I. Joe, it can be something in the air.
Yeah, because now I know that, but I love it. I know I'm going to be talking to you about those G.I. Joe coming up soon.
Man, a TED talk about. Honestly, this is kind of, I don't know if you might still think this is too closely related, but I grew up on Shel Silverstein and his poetry books. And I feel like that.
Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Oh yes. My gosh. Dude.
Love Shel Silverstein, bro.
The Giving Tree.
Yes.
I feel like I could talk about those rhyme. That's kind of where I started writing poetry. Shel Silverstein, man. I used to love just eating up his wordplay and the way he rhymed things. I don't know. I can go off on that and just talk about all those little poems and books, and
there we go. That hasn't been said yet, so no, I'm a fan as well. As soon as you said it, yes. And thinking about it now, that probably as well, as a young kid, helped me why I love poetry and hip hop, and because of that rhyme schemes and just wordplay. I fucking love that. Hell yeah. We got a Shel Silverstein plug up in there. I love that. Yo, Charles, man, it's a pleasure to meet you virtually. I know we've been trying to sync up for a bit, but I'm happy we've now been able to make this connection, and I'm looking forward to growing this connection. And for those that are checking this out and wanting to know more about you and reaching out to you and follow your journey as you do it, for those that could be driving, I'm going to put the information in the description below for all the handles, so you can follow Charles. But for those driving and are kind of listening via audio, if you could tell them how they can follow you online and all of that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much Instagram is the one I think I check the most, at Charles J. Gray, Gray Gray on Instagram. And then, I don't have a website, but I'm I use my Vimeo as my website. So vimeo.com/Charles Gray is where you can see a lot of my work and stuff. So
there we go. Check out my man, Charles Gray. It's a pleasure, man, to talk to you and kind of build this relationship out, man, and support you with what you're doing. I echo and have the same goals, and let's see if we can't manifest them together, brother, as we move into the future and continue to build out for our community. Akababayan. Follow my man, Charles Gray. For me, it's the legend Kuya P on Twitter, TikTok, and IG. Of course, here, at ShoPowSho and at the NRW and at Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world. This has been another ShoPowSho. We love y'all. Mahakita, salamat for my man Charles Gray, your boy Kuya P. We are out of here until the next time. See y'all.
Hey everyone, I'm Charles Gray, and catch me on the ShoPowSho with Kuya P, where I'll be talking about my latest film, Velvet Sky, and just about my journey in this film world. So check it out. Hi, I'm Charles Gray. I'm a Filipinx writer and director, filmmaker, and what my Filipino heritage means to me is, growing up here in California, in the U.S., I feel like I didn't personally even know what my heritage meant to me growing up. But I think as I kind of get into my own skin now, where I'm at with my life, it means so much to me because I think it's basically how we connect with everyone. So my heritage is so important to me, whether it's the food we eat or how we talk to each other, how we throw parties. It might be a little different from yours, but I feel like if we can all kind of get together and show each other that we may have our differences, then we can celebrate each other's differences. And that's kind of the beauty of having our own different nooks and crannies of our culture, because it would just be boring if we didn't have our own unique things. So to me, my Filipino heritage, whatever it is, whether, like I said, it's the clothes we wear, the way we talk, it's all amazing and beautiful. And I think, so however we do all those things, to me, is just beautiful because that's where I come from. And that's what I want to share with everyone else. So hopefully that answers the question.